12th of June. I'm back at work tomorrow. Yay. Can't wait. So I'm going to soften the blow by having a couple of drams just to get back into having a little bit of a head start and not having to rush things, because I have now gone from fibre internet where the video was literally uploading within 5 minutes to my rubbishy UK home internet where it's taken me an hour and a half on average to upload the damn video. So if I have to film and edit and upload on the same night, it takes for frickin' ever. So I'm going to try and get ahead of myself a little bit. So I'm going to carry on with some bourbons, and first one I'm going to have is another donation from a guy called Pete James, who got in contact with me from, I don't actually know how he found out about the challenge, to be perfectly honest, but he sent me an email and said, I've got some stuff to send you. I'm based in the US. Where was he from? I don't think he was from California. New York, I think he was from. I can't remember. Sorry, Pete. I honestly can't remember where you were from. Don't take offence. My memory's shocking. But yeah, so he sent me a few samples while I was over in Orlando, basically because it was cheaper for him to send it there than the UK. And I thought, right, well, I've got some samples to do then. So he sent me the Woodenville, which was very interesting. And also this particular one and another one as well, but that's going to be a bit later on because it's not American. So this is called Garrison Brothers, but I don't know who the brothers are because everything I've read up on this just refers to one guy, a guy called Dan Garrison, who looks like this. Now it's a distillery that's based in Texas, so I think you'll agree that he looks about as Texan as you could possibly get. The distillery itself is in a place called High, which is here, not too far away from Austin. It's kind of like slap bang in the middle of the Lone Star State. And speaking of the Lone Star, they actually use that star on their bottle, and the bottle looks like this. And I am a sucker for good looking bottles, and I will admit that this is one good looking bottle. So if I saw this in a shop, I would be seriously tempted to pick it up just based on the bottle alone. It's not cheap though. It is a micro distillery. It's a very, very small scale. I think they only have 3, maybe 4 full-time employees there. And you're looking at anywhere between $80 to $100. Now what's interesting was I was reading a review with Dan himself, and he was saying that he thinks his whiskey is worth about $65, $70, $75. But he is aware that it's being sold for anywhere between $75 to $100, which he thinks is too much. Now that's unusual, to be perfectly honest. It also gives you an idea of what the drinks market is kind of like in terms of pushing for profit. But it's very interesting that he thinks actually he's probably slightly overpriced. But let's face it, bourbon in particular at the moment is incredibly popular. Prices are going up. You've only got to look at things like Pappy Van Winkle, which is going for 4 figures. So if the distributors think that they can get more money out of it, if he feels like he's getting what he deserves for his whiskey and the distributors are making it, I can't blame them for it. It's interesting that somebody that's making it is going, do you know what, guys, you this is too much, because it's not like he's going to get a cut of that profit margin either. So this is bottled at 47%. And they have the ranch that they're on has a 65-acre wheat fields, which they use for the wheat. So it's wheat, corn, and rye. Now it's bourbon whiskey, so it's 51% corn. I don't know what the rest of the split is. The wheat is from their own ranch. The corn is locally sourced in Texas, and the barley that they use. Did I say barley? Wheat, corn and barley. No, I said rye, didn't I? No, wheat, corn and barley. The barley is from the Pacific Northwest. That's what I read, whatever that means. The first still that they used was actually an experimental still from Wild Turkey, but he's got 2 of his own now that are called Fat Man and Little Boy. What's different about those, I've absolutely no idea. So it'd be very interesting to see what this is like, because this seems to be a micro distillery that's taking a lot of care. Garrison Brothers is, weirdly, on their website, they say they are the first and oldest legal distillery in Texas. Now, if you're the first, you would be the oldest, and I think it's because there's another distillery, and I think it might be Balcones, I could be completely wrong, but they were founded in 2005, Dan himself was actually working with bourbon from about 2001 onwards. He wanted to get into bourbon in a big way, and it was actually a bit of a race between him and I think Balcones. I could be completely wrong, but I think it was a bit of a race between him and Balcones to release the first one to be the first distillery from Texas. So let's see how we go. It's a lovely dark colour on it, really, really nice. Do you know what? I'm going to have to take a break because my daughter is crying upstairs. She's still not sleeping again. But that first taste is very, very good. I'm going to pause. I'm going to go upstairs and I'll be back in a bit. Right. Sorry about that. I'm hoping this is just a little phase of coming back off holiday and jet lag and everything like that, because I really could do without this every single night. So anyway, Garrison Brothers. Where were we? Oh yeah, we were tasting it. So there's quite a good balance on the nose actually. There's a bit of freshness to it, but there's a nice spice as well. There's a bit of heat, but it's just the right side of too powerful in terms of it's fiery, but it's pleasant. It's not too harsh. But there's a definite toasty rye-ness to it as well, which is interesting considering there's no rye in it. Maybe that's the wheat that's coming through. I did say wheat and corn and barley, didn't I? I'm sure I did. Absolutely sure I did. I'm confusing myself now. It's not thinking straight. Anyway. But yeah, really nice balance on the nose, but we're starting to get into the hotter style of bourbon. Speaking of which, Texas, hot place. And they've got quite an issue with the heat there and the amount that they're losing in terms of maturation in the casks. It turns out that they're actually getting casks made for them that are thicker. They're like 1.5 inch thick staves, essentially to counteract the heat and the loss of the angel share. They're looking at like 10 to 15% being lost annually. So it's, they're losing a fair amount of stock because of the heat in there. Now the heat is good to kind of keep the whiskey kind of maturing in the wood and kind of almost keep it agitated, but they're losing a lot now. A lot of the liquid that's evaporated is actually water, so it's concentrating the flavours in there, but they're still losing a lot of stock. So it's going to still be a fairly young whiskey. In terms of the age, I'm not 100% certain what this is. I think it does say on the labelling how old it is. I think they put quite a lot of information in there, but this is what I received from Pete. So in terms of the age, I'm guessing 2 to 3 years, something like that. But they are losing a lot, and they do have an issue with the heat in that county. So like I say, they're getting these casks specially made for them, which have got a thicker wood in it, just so that they're not losing as much, because the wood was just drying out. It was just like the cask was drying from the outside in and making it practically impossible to mature it. Ooh. Yeah, there's kind of a cereal-y element as well, almost yeah, kind of like breakfast cereal, like Cheerios and things like that. Just caught that on the end there. It was really nice. So, slightly hotter on the palate, and again we're at the hotter, spiciest style of bourbon, but this is just about the limit that I like it. There's some fire in there, but there's a nice sweetness. There's not too much of a brown sugar fruitiness, like caramelly, dark fruit, Christmas cakey, that I associate with mainly Kentucky bourbons, to be perfectly honest. This is a little bit drier, it's a little bit hotter, but it's not too hot. It's not something like a Maker's Mark or a Booker's where the heat and the fire of the whiskey is too much and it's masking the flavours that are there. It's just about balanced right. It's erring just slightly too much for my personal taste, but it's still smooth, it's still drinkable. That cereal vibe comes through as well. The Cheerios, sort of malty cereals are coming through, but then you get a kick at the back of and it's not at the back of the throat, it's kind of at the top of the top of your mouth. The roof of your mouth is just a little bit of burn on there. Like I say again, it's not. It's dangerously close to being just a little bit too fiery for my liking, but there's enough counterbalance of, and it's not really a sweetness. It's just kind of a malty, round, smooth mouthfeel. It's just holding it for me. If you like your bourbons a bit hotter, this is probably going to float your boat. It's good. It's well made. It's a nice bourbon. Yeah. And on that mouthful, right on the tongue, it was really kind of breakfast cereal, milk, and a touch of sugar. But then like the other half of it is kind of burn and fire. And 47%, it's not a massively high alcohol percentage. It'd be interesting to see if they were to knock it down slightly. But that's obviously the choice. That's their decision to release it at that percentage. It's a good whiskey. It's interesting, and it's got enough character of its own. This kind of breakfast cereal character is unusual, and a softness to it as well. It really is kind of like almost chocolate milk as well. It's worth picking out. Like I say, the bottle looks fantastic. It's a really nice flavour. If you like your slightly hotter bourbons, it's well worth giving it a go. But there's this distinctive Cheerios malty character to it, which actually makes it stand out. So yeah, interesting. They've got a couple of others. They've got a cowboy bourbon, and was it a rye that they've got as well? I can't remember. But there's like 3 in the range, at least 3 that they've got in the range, and I think it's well worth keeping an eye on. Very, very interesting. Another micro distillery trying to do things not necessarily differently, but just really passionate about what they're doing. Dan seems really passionate about bourbon and the history of bourbon and American whiskey as a whole. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. Right, quick rinse out, and then we shall get on with the next one. So I shall see you then. Cheers.